Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to the 19th episode of Ada the Autistic Alien. I'm super happy that you're here with me today again, or this week. And today I want to talk a little bit about human design, in case you haven't heard it. But first, I want to share a little bit more about my journey towards my diagnosis. So, I had the third session today, and in between, I had to do, as I said, I had to fill in some questionnaires and stuff like this. And today, the session was mostly about, testing how good I can, in a situation, how good I can read if people act inappropriately, or why they maybe act inappropriately, like when we blurt out something that maybe good manners would tell us otherwise and stuff like that. Because it's known that a lot of people with autistic spectrum disorder have troubles to really read the room right, or to feel how other people feel. But then again, I truly believe that this is different in women than it is in men, simply because, as I said before, women kind of get dopamine hits from their brain when they let others go first. So for a female brain, it's rewarding to read people right, to learn social behavior. Because a lot of times my answer was, I don't think it's inappropriate, but my manners, or in other words, my conditioning tells me it's inappropriate because you don't say that way. And to me, and I think that's actually kind of autistic, it's more a rule that I learned than something I would agree with. With a lot of things that people get so hurt by, I believe it's only because they carry triggers. So I don't believe I shouldn't say it just because then they don't get triggered. Because if they don't get triggered, they don't heal. But society and its conditioning has me knowing that I can't do that. And because I have a female brain that gets rewarded when I treat others nicely, I learned that. And if I would have a male brain that gets dopamine if it doesn't give a fuck about others, if it goes first, if it's the first one. Yeah, and I said before, it's a conditioning. It's not that the male brain does that. It was conditioned with patriarchy over thousands of years into our brains, this behavior. It's proven. The University of Zurich has proven that. So I don't want to make this into a male-female discussion. I'm just saying that for me, as with a female brain, that the logical steps in a world where maybe you can't read a room, your technique to deal with that will be different than the one of a male brain. Yeah? Because a male brain is I get dopamine if I'm the first. So my thing is right, no matter how right it really is. Yeah? And the female brain gets dopamine when it goes second. So my brain will be most probably I am in the wrong. So I will adapt, where the male brain is less likely to adapt. And that's the reason why they thought that only male brains could have ADHD for so long, because it shows so differently. And to me, these parts are really very closely related. And I don't believe that this is getting recognized in modern science and studies and psychology at the moment. So yeah, again today, I kind of had this feeling a little bit that, I'm curious, this was the last session, so on the 24th I should get my diagnosis. And if you're and then I will know, from these tests, if I'm autistic or not. But even if it says I'm not, I won't really believe it, simply because these tests look for autism in male brains, so they are not suitable for the case. Anyways, I think it's a bit weird, healthcare in Switzerland is a weird thing. Everybody thinks we have this super good healthcare, but in the end, it's just we have to have it. You cannot rent an apartment in Switzerland without having health insurance. You cannot have you cannot be a resident of Switzerland unless you have a health insurance. That's like it comes with the deal. If you want to live here, you have to have one, and it's not cheap. And like the thing with it is that, like the state or like whatever, now the government, they give like these facilities where you can like get diagnosed like I do now. But like the way this building looks and the way everything there looks and the way these tests look, it's totally underfunded. They need so much more money to make this work. To me, it looks like a joke. I really think like where did I end up, man? And it's not because my therapist is bad. He's really good. But he can only use these tools that like are given to him and are allowed like in this process to come to this diagnosis. So, yeah, like just like a quick heads up, if you're a Swiss resident and you are thinking about getting diagnosed, no matter if it's with ADHD, ADD, autism, whatever, I highly recommend to you that in most cantons you will have to wait like a year or something. So, like, in Switzerland we have this thing called Selbstbehalt. It's like a certain part of the cost of your doctor you will still have to pay for yourself. Yeah? So I pay like $250 every month for the health insurance, although I don't use it. And then when I go to the doctor, I will still have to pay $2,500 per year myself. And I could put that down, so I only have to pay $300 a year at the doctor, but then my monthly bill would be like $500. Yeah? So most people that live like I do, like that don't really go to the doctor anyways, unless they really have to, they have the Selbstbehalt very high. So they have it at 2,500 like I have. And so this diagnosis for me, like these 4 sessions in total that I will have had with this therapist, will cost around that. So it will be around 2,500. And like, so if you are considering getting a diagnosis, I strongly suggest that you put your Selbstbehalt down for the year you want to get a diagnosis in. You can still put it back up, but you have to calculate it. But most probably you will save money, because, it's just not like, it's very expensive, so to speak. I didn't get the bill yet, but I asked him how much it will be, and he said around that. So, yeah, just so you know. Yeah, if you are not like privately insured or anything, just make sure that you have the funds to pay for that, because it will be you that pays it, like according to your Selbstbehalt. So just like maybe consider that before you get a diagnosis. I knew it and I thought like, okay, like I can't wait anymore right now. So yeah, but just so you know, because we still don't know how this will end. It could still be that my therapist says you don't have autism spectrum disorder, but I think that you could have that or you could have that. And if I could have that or that means I could go through 2 other diagnosis things again. And I actually am not sure if I would do that. On one hand, it would be very cheap if I do it this year because my Selbstbehalt is gone. I already kind of then once these 2,500 are paid, like the rest will be paid by my health insurance. But then on the other hand, it just takes so much out of time out of my week. And now that I've gone through this process, I don't really trust the diagnosis anyways, because it's based on cheap material that, as I said last week, is maybe made for teenagers from 14 to 24, and I'm 35 and I have to fill this out now. So it's all underfunded as fuck. And so I'm not really sure if I want to proceed in a system that's so wrecked, the people that work in it, they are good. Like the ones that I met, they are really good and they really want to change something in the world and do something good. But they are so frustrated because the system doesn't allow the real work. Yeah. So bureaucracy is really, in my opinion, it's not a good thing, in most cases. Anyways, so that was it towards my diagnosis journey. So I want to talk about human design today. Maybe you have heard of it. It's kind of like a system that is based on when you were born, at what time exactly, and where you were born. And it's like, it was kind of channeled by Ra Uru Hu. That was his like not given name. He gave it to himself. I don't know his real name right now. Before the 2000s, I don't even remember when it was channeled. Anyways, it's this whole system that is kind of based on the I Ching, as well as Vedic astrology, Mayan astrology, numerology, like the Kabbalah. There is a lot of things like systems like intertwined in this system. And I don't necessarily care so much about how old the roots of something are. I care more if what I study or what it says that it is helpful for my life. And human design was really helpful for me in some cases, simply because it made me understand why maybe sometimes people react so strongly towards my energy, or why there is only like these two situations. Either people are really attracted to my kind of energy, or they are really pushed away by it. Yeah. So rejected, that was the word I was searching for. Or they feel really rejected by it. Yeah. And a long time in my life, I used to take that very personal. And so human design helped me a lot to understand that it's just like, it's not really related to me. It's just my energy that is really strong, and it moves others. Like my energy touches others. And when they are not ready to be moved, then they go into resistance, and this resistance will be against me. Because they see me as the source. Yeah, but it's my energy field, and I can't really change my energy field, can I? Like even like in the times where I was very conditioned and very people pleasing and very fawning, that still happened. And I feel like that's why I felt it was a curse for such a long time in my life. Simply because no matter how differently I tried to behave, it was still there and it was still happening. Yeah. So, but then when I deconditioned more and more, I realized that that's kind of cool, because I can like, no matter how much I try to mask who I am, my energy will still be the same. So that's kind of cool too. So I like kind of established this little story to make you understand what the types in human design are. Like, you know, like in astrology, we have these signs that are attuned to people. But like in astrology, you don't only have your sun sign, you also have an ascendant, you also like a rising sign, you have a moon sign, and all of these things. Yeah. So in human design, we have like these 5 types, and then we have like these subcategories on how they work. And I will not really go so much into depth, because there is so much you can find online that is way more informed than I am. But I just wanted to make an episode about this in case you haven't heard of it, or maybe you heard but you don't really know where to put it. It's really interesting. So you can imagine the 5 types of human design being like in a theater. Yeah. So like to have a play in the theater, what we need at first, the very first thing, is somebody who invents a story. Yeah, somebody that like invents or like a story or writes a story that wasn't there before, or that's interesting, or anything like that. Yeah. And the types who write the stories are the manifestors. The manifestors are around 8% of the population on the planet at the moment. So this is the first type, manifestor. That's what I am. Yeah. Then to like get this play done, we need a producer. Yeah. So we need someone who understands that this play is like, or this story is worth being played, understands the value of this play, but then also understands, okay, yeah, for this role I want to have this actor, and for that role I want to have that actor. So the producer is kind of the person that translates the story into a play. Yeah. And that would be the projector in human design. Let me think quickly. So around 20% of the population are projectors. Yeah, they have this very unique gift to kind of translate between the writer of the story and the ones who will watch the play. And then we have the actors, yeah? The ones that play the game, that act the roles out of the story. And these are generators. And a generator type is 70% of the planet. And then we have the reflectors. Those are the people that sit in the audience and they watch the play. It's around 2% of the population of the planet. With the generator type, we have a subtype, which is the manifesting generator. Yeah. What type you are is depending on, if you want to look up your chart, you can just like Google calculate human design and you will find plenty of pages where you can calculate your human design for free. Maybe you want to give your data in 2 different or 3 different just to make sure that you calculated it right. Yeah. And then you will see like this graphic with a lot of numbers and like centers and channels. And depending on which of these channels are activated or through which of these channels flows energy without a disruption in the channel, determines what type you are. Yeah. So this is kind of like based on the mathematics of your birth date, birth time, and birthplace. Yeah. And so to me, this made so much sense because like when you go deeper, you will also understand that these types don't have the same access to energy. Yeah. So generators, who make up 70% of the population, they have a constant access to energy within their channels. So they constantly get energy. Yeah. You will see it in the channels. Like, I don't remember the English words right now for these centers, but there is one center that is connected to life force or energy. And it's like a motor. It's like an inner motor. Yeah. So for a generator, it's easy to stand up every day and do something. Yeah. And a generator, like not a manifesting generator, but like the general generator, which are like 35% of those 70% who are generators all in total, they will just get up and they're kind of happy if they have someone who tells them what to do. Yeah? Not in a submissive way. Not that. But more like they like to go to a job and then there is like this clear list of tasks that they have to do and they don't have to like create their own tasks. That's not what they like. It's like being an actor. Actors, like for sure, they bring their own kind of character into the role that they play. But generally, a good actor is someone that can totally dissolve his own personality and become the role that he is playing. Yeah? So an actor is a very good example for a generator because they get exactly told what to say, what to do, and the better they stick to this script, the more authentically they can embody what is scripted, the better they are in their job. Yeah? And that's a generator thing. I'm not saying that generators are fake or actors or masks. Yeah, that's very important. It's just that generators really like if somebody comes and tells them, like, look, this is what you have to do in this week, or these are your jobs and you can just do them. And it gives them a lot of peace to do that when they find something that they really like doing. Yeah, they are not stupid puppets or anything. Like, I really don't want to, like, I know that the words I used right now, they are very negatively connoted in some people's minds. So it's very important for me to point out that generators are super valid. And I kind of really envy them because they can take orders and they cannot question things and just accept them as they are and follow through with something. Yeah? And I'm the total opposite. Like, I never did something the way I learned how it works. Like, I learn how it works and then I do it differently. Yeah? So I respect the basics and I respect everything that's like already been studied, but then I want to take it further. And that's totally manifestor style. Manifestors are the types that bring the future into the world. Yeah. So we kind of write the new stories. And that doesn't like necessarily mean that we are like the most beautiful people. Like Hitler was a manifestor. Yeah. So just to give you an example, that he took a lot of the ideologies and stuff that was there before, but he branded it so like perfectly in a bad way. But still, like the propaganda he did and the whole machinery that he built up is crazy. It's totally crazy. And this is the power of a manifestor unleashed. Yeah. So it's not only like a good thing. So, and generally, I realize now that when I look at what my friends are, like their types, and what I look at the people I work with and their types, I understand that this is like really a very good flow of energy is when, for example, I as a manifestor write a book. But then, like, as soon as this book is written, for me, it's not of interest anymore because I'm a manifestor. Unlike a generator, I don't have like just unlimited amounts of energy. I will like maybe rest for 4 weeks and not do a lot. And then in 2 weeks, I will put out so much energy and create something so new that others will have to work 6 months to achieve what I achieve in these 2 weeks. Yeah, so my energy works in bursts. And there is no real pattern to that because, in my opinion, it's strongly related to intuition and it's strongly related to forces that we are not yet able to measure. Yeah, but I realized that I cannot control my rest cycles, and I also should not because I never know what I am resting for. Because as a manifestor, like I'm resting before a new project is launched. So the longer I rest, I have a rest cycle, the bigger the project will be that I launch afterwards. And that's definitely true for my life. And because we all grew up in this generator society, yeah, where like the whole workforce and how like work times and all of this, the scheduling, it's all oriented on people who are able to work a 9 to 5, who have this access to energy that just comes daily. And it's like this motor that never stops running. So the generator type, yeah? And that's why a lot of times I gaslighted myself into not having that kind of energy. Although I always saw that I can do so much within like I can do what other people need 3 hours for in 20 minutes when I have the energy, yeah? But this world doesn't really like acknowledge that, yeah? It's more important to be consistent. And my energy is not consistent. It's the same with projectors. They have another kind of energy flow. But they also don't have this consistent energy. Only generators have this very consistent energy. And currently we have a world that's very much focused on generators. It's a kind of a little bit the same with neurodiverse people versus neurotypical people, yeah? The world is currently made for neurotypical people. And it's also made for generators. And if you maybe are none of both, like I am, that explains a lot why you like feel so different, or why you feel like you don't belong, or why you feel like you will never be able to like be normal, simply because your normal is not the normal of 70% of the people that are currently alive. Yeah. And so for me it helped a lot. Like it's not, how should I say? You know, this is not an excuse for just being lazy and then telling myself I'm in a rest cycle, but I've never been a lazy person, so that's just not a problem that I have. It's more about understanding that also, like when you go deeper into the subject, I don't want to cover too much of this. I just want to give you a little bit of insight of what it did with my life, and then you can look up the rest online, simply because it's a deep thing, yeah. And like I couldn't cover that in one podcast episode, and there are so many podcasts out there about exactly this subject that I don't want to like do the whole Ada the autistic alien about this. But when you go deeper, you understand that you also have an inner authority. Yeah. And the inner authority depends on the channels that you have, and mine is 1/3 emotional. So I have emotional authority. That means that, and I know that like from the 35 years I've been alive, it's so true that I cannot make a decision until my feeling is there. Yeah? Like there is just this feeling of knowing that this is the decision I have to make. And it's a feeling that makes me know. It's not a knowing that makes me feel. The difference. That I know, okay, I have this emotional clarity now. And before, I always go through ups and downs towards this decision. That's how I decide. That's how I digest information and build my reality based on the results, is through the emotional process. Yeah. And then there are other authorities, a lot of different authorities, and you maybe want to look that up too. But to me, it just gave me so much confirmation of what maybe I work so differently than others. Like also, I as a manifester, like I didn't know that before, but it makes a lot of sense, like when I read it, that my aura is closed. So, and it's very strong. So, because my aura is closed, others feel me very strongly, but they don't necessarily understand what's going on. They don't feel my feelings per se. They just know that I'm on or I'm off. And they feel it very intensely. And the other thing about a closed aura is that I don't necessarily feel others as good. So, and here again, we come into the autist thing, yeah, that I had to learn a lot in my life to understand how other people feel, or learn how to tune into what they are in at the moment, because otherwise I only saw myself in them because my aura is closed. It's a difficult concept. There are a lot of videos online as well on Jovian archives where this is explained in depth. And yeah, just maybe like, again, to the different types, like the reflectors for me is also a very interesting group of people. I've only met like 1 or 2 reflectors in my life. And I really have to say that they felt as if they were viewers. You know, it's not like these people that just are more quiet or more introvert or more observing. But it really felt like in this game of life, they are more here to look at others. And they bring totally their own energy and everything. But it's just like, it's very hard to describe. But it's as if they were not really related to what's going on around them, in a very weird sense. And I saw the same in manifestors, but with a different energy. Yeah, with a very active energy. And with a lot of manifestors I know, like me, are very hurt by what happened to them, simply because like to us it feels like we are seen all the time because we get a lot of attention. But then we realize that we are never really being seen, and from that stems a lot of our pain. And yeah, to me, it just made things so much easier also to understand that because people feel my energy all the time, it's super important that I express what I'm feeling, because otherwise they will start to tell themselves stories about it, yeah? So like other people maybe can walk through their day and they don't have to say anything about how they are feeling or anything. But with me, because people feel my energy so strongly, they feel that something is going on. So it's important to put it into words from my perspective, because then they know what's going on and they don't have to invent a story. So that's why we have strategies in human design. And the strategy of the manifestor is to inform. Manifestors agree that this is only a coping mechanism because we live in a world where we are not really appreciated. In a different world, maybe that wouldn't be our strategy. But our strategy is to inform. And that's exactly because of that. We don't have to explain things per se, but we have to inform people what's going on, because otherwise we run them over with our energy. And also with our crazy ideas and our plans, because we dream big, yeah? What else is there to say? Maybe the difference between manifesting generators and generators. I described the generator before. So what the manifesting generator has is still like this longing of maybe living without a boss. Yeah, the manifesting generator also has this access to constant energy. So he's not like the manifester who has to wait for the energy that it comes in waves. The generator has it all the time, and also the manifesting generator. But the manifesting generator wants to build more of his own thing. Like a lot of the very famous entrepreneurs in the world right now are manifesting generators, because these are the only types who have what it takes to become that, let's say, rich in a capitalist society that's that broken. Yeah, simply because they have this drive to, like, I don't want to say that they, like, that they use it, but I also don't want to say that they are successful, because they are only successful because the system is so fucked up. And manifesting generators, like, generally all types are very successful. It's just that this world is made for generators, and if you're a manifesting generator, you kind of have a cherry on top, because you also have your own ideas, and that was making you able to become an entrepreneur. Where, like, a generator normally, like, that's just, like, I also say that this is not applicable to every person. If you go and read, you're a generator, but you're, like, having your own business since 20 years, then please don't think that that's a wrong thing to have. It's more like tendencies, stereotypes, yeah? Like, I don't think they're a bad thing. It's just how much I identify with it. So I'm not, like, walking around thinking I'm the coolest because I'm a manifester, or I'm the worst because I'm a manifester, or I don't even think about being a manifester. What I thought about is, okay, that's interesting. So this is called an emotional authority, because that's what I'm going through all my life. And it made it easier for me to embrace certain aspects of myself that I always wanted to change. Like, for example, that I sleep so much. Like, I can sleep easily 9 to 12 hours every night. No problem. And that's also related to the manifester. Projectors have more this thing that they don't have, like, a lot of energy for a long time, so they need more breaks and naps and all of these things. And I don't really need a nap. Like, once I'm started, I'm on, and then it takes some time until I'm off again, and then I'm off. So, and with projectors, I think they're also called non-energy types, projectors and reflectors, because I think they don't even have this inner energy. They need to get it from the outside. Yeah, so they don't have their own inner motor like generators and manifestors have. They get the energy from the things they do and the things they interact with and the people they interact with. Yeah, it's kind of, that's why the theater is such a good example, because, like, the producer couldn't produce anything without the story of the manifester. And that's why a lot of times projectors and manifestors are friends. Like, some of my closest friends are projectors. And all the others that I really, like, am on good terms with are manifesting generators or manifestors. Simply because manifestors and reflectors, normally they don't really, like, it's a different kind of vibe. It's like when you imagine, like, Karl Heinz, who goes to watch a play, and then you imagine the very eccentric Delilah, who wrote the play. You can imagine that they maybe don't have a lot in common. Yeah, they still have a lot in common because they're both interested in plays. But it's a different approach. Yeah, and still they can be, like, from the same, like, they can still, like, relate a lot. But then also, like, it's very possible that they can't. Yeah, and, like, generators generally, like, I can, like, some of my friends are also generators, but we just live very different lives, like, totally different. And I think the reason why we are friends is because we can really, like, just accept that we don't live the same lives, and then we don't see each other that often, but it still works. Yeah. And again, like, it's not about, like, looking at human design as, should I be friends with that person or that person? Should I do this or that or whatever? Are my relationships okay? To me, it just helped a lot in understanding that different types communicate differently. for example, like some types need to be invited and others need to invite. And that's totally true. Like a lot of my projector friends, they rarely ask if I'm gonna like have ideas, if we could do that or anything, or even if they have, they don't propose it. And then I come and they're totally on board when I propose it because I'm more of the active energy that invites, yeah? And especially in my working place or like the with the friends that I work with on my website and all of that, it helped me heaps to understand what they need to be motivated, what kind of conversation or what kind of words they need to feel seen, to feel appreciated, and what is it that motivates them. Yeah. And of course, I don't only take into this consideration their human design. I also take into consideration maybe like if some of them has ADHD, I take into consideration how do I motivate an ADHD person to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours to do something for me that I won't even pay them for. And it's not because I want to manipulate or anything like that. It's more that I understand how the brain works. And as soon as we get dopamine for something, we like to do it. It's that simple. And so we can manipulate ourselves with that. And it's the same a little bit with, like, in a positive way, because manipulate, in the end, it only means changing with your hands. It means you transform something, you change something, yeah? Manipulate is like the bad twin brother of changing something. It's a Latin-based word, and it got used very much in a way of like negative connotation. But in the end, it has the same meaning as changing something, to manipulate something. You change it in how it is. And yeah, I understood that, like, the more I understand that maybe how we work, it's like, for example, my rising sign is Virgo. And I'm super organized. Now, we also think that that's maybe from the ASD, but I'm super organized, yeah? And, like, I'm not walking around thinking, oh, I'm a Virgo, I'm so organized, la, la, la. I'm not, no, but it was just an explanation. And it made sense why I'm organized, and then maybe my other friend who's a fish as a rising sign isn't organized, yeah? And it's kind of sad that we need these things, but to me, it's just about realizing that we are all different. We are the same in the sense of we all need water to drink, we need food to eat, and so on. But then we are also largely different because we don't need the same amounts of food. We don't need the same foods at all. We need different ways of living than others. We are perceiving in other ways than others do. And human design also helped me, just like exploring the spectrum, to understand more deeply what these differences are and also how we can work with them. Yeah? Because, like, this world is like a lot of times, like the sentence I liked so much when I was younger and now I hate it so much is treat others the way you want to be treated, and then everything will be kind of okay or whatever. And I think on one hand that's true, but on the other hand it's also not cool. Because who says that you want to be treated the way that I want to be treated? I mean, for sure, what the sentence wants to say is be nice to everyone. Yes, okay, I agree to that. But then, like, I, for example, want to be called out when I do a mistake. I want people to tell me so I can become better, or at least I understand that in their world what I did wasn't okay. Even if it was for me, but I want to know, yeah? And then a lot of people don't want that. So when I, like, treat others the way I want to be treated, that's kind of an egotistical thing to do in the end. Although, like, that maybe rings your socialist bells or whatever. But I just really believe that why don't we get to meet others and learn how they want to be treated? And one way to do that, because a lot of us are so disconnected to ourselves that we don't even know how we want to be treated. Yeah? So one way to do that is human design. Or another way to do that is getting a diagnosis to understand that maybe, I know that I'm highly sensitive, and chances are very high that I have a strong PTSD. Um, so I can adjust myself and I can like learn what I maybe need, and then I can test that, and what fits for me is good. And then I can inform those who love me and want to be with me about what I need, and then that's good, right? And that's the same with human design, but in human design it's a bit easier because you don't have to get a diagnosis first. You can just type in your dates and all your data and just check what you are, and then also look at maybe what your friends are, and you will understand that okay, maybe like when I tell others things the way I want to hear them, they don't even feel seen because I'm not speaking their language, I'm speaking my language. Yeah, that happens so much that like people, for example, want to show love to somebody else, but they do it in the language that they speak, and they didn't take the time to learn the language that their loved one speaks. So to their loved one, the message doesn't arrive. Yeah, it's like if I suddenly would talk to you in Chinese and expect you to understand what I'm saying. Yeah, instead of learning your language first and then tell you, or find a common ground with the language that we both speak. Yeah, so that for that human design helped me a lot. On one hand, to translate between me and myself and understand, okay, there are different types. And, I believe it's super sad that we actually need this. I would like prefer if we wouldn't need that, if we would just have been raised in a world where not everyone is the same. And I believe that maybe is happening to the children now. Although all the conservative people are like, oh, people don't have an identity anymore, stop confusing them. Actually, I believe like too much of an identity and that everybody has to be the same and everybody has to be normal is way more fucked up. And like, I believe that our generations really have to free themselves from like all this, from all of that, like that we are all the same, that things work all the same. Like still, as I said, like now I'm getting tested for autism, but they don't even understand how different it is in females than in males. Yeah, because it's just all still so young and so underfunded, as I said. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to cover human design, because I thought that, maybe it's interesting to you, and maybe, like a lot of people get a bit lost because they're like, what is it in general? So I feel like this theater play really helps to understand that, that there is one thing that kind of writes the story that brings new things into life. Like other famous manifestors, or Vera Birkenbiel, Carl Gustav Jung was a manifester. And there are plenty others that just don't come to mind at the moment. I would strongly suggest that Tesla might also have been a manifester, or at least a manifesting generator. Like the way to point out a manifestor is that he really does things differently, and he brings things into the world that haven't been here before. Yeah, so that's why I'm a very good example for a manifestor as well, because the books I write and the subjects I teach are not to find anywhere else in the way I do it. It's kind of like we invent the future. And they also say that we are kind of like time travelers from the future, which is a bit far out there. But, like to me, like, and I totally relate to that, because to me, I really feel like I'm in the middle age when I look at this planet and at the societal rules. It all just feels so ancient and so old and so like not good anymore. So I always felt like I'm from the future. It felt kind of freeing to read that manifestors might be these time travelers that just came back to kind of like bring new ideas here. So yeah, or to kind of bring the future here. So yeah, we will see what happens. Anyways, every type in human design has total validation and is very, very important for the whole process to work, like evolution in the mental and emotional and astral sense, and also even physical sense. So there is no sign that's better or worse. There are just signs where there are way more inhabitants on the planet at the moment than others, like generators versus manifestors, or versus reflectors, which are only 2%. And that's why we consider some things or some behaviors as more normal than others. And it's more about like the amount of population that there is in this type than about that type being more right than others. Yeah. So I really hope this was interesting to you. I wish you a lovely, lovely weekend ahead. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope to see you next week again, or better said, hear you next week again. And yeah, if you want to explore this, as I said, Google calculate human design. Jovian Archives, Jovian Archives, is like the main site where you also find these videos that I said about the auras and how they interact with each other. Like if you want to dig deep, that's the place to go. But if you just want to calculate, there are other places where you find lots of information. Once you know your design, I would strongly suggest that you Google that again. So like in my case, it would be 1/3 emotional manifestor, and then you find plenty of like blog articles, and just go with what feels right. Yeah, that's why I don't want to post like a generic general link, because you will be guided towards like maybe the people that like speak the most in the way that you will understand it in this way if you just Google it. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Speak soon and take good care of you. Bye bye.